So, welcome everybody. I say everybody. There's probably absolutely no one in the chat yet. Let's have a quick look. No, we've got no one in the chat yet.
Good
Probably
start.
because we went live at least a minute early. So
Yeah.
it's worth doing. So, what I would like though is if anyone is in the chat and is joining us, if they could just let us know whether it is all coming through clearly, whether you can hear us, whether there's any echoing, um, or you can hear my voice nice and clear. So, anyone out there, anyone at all, someone must have joined us on this momentous of occasions, the very first ever Just Roll Sixes live chat show. So, we still, well, it looks like we've got no one in the chat. Maybe no one will turn up. Oh, no, Mrs. AOS Pete has said it sounds great, so we will kick off. Thank you, Mrs. AOS Pete.
Yeah.
She does have a
What a
name.
hero.
Yeah, what a legend. Best sports vote already. So thank you, Anya. Feel free to jump out now if you don't want to listen to three grown men ramble about Warhammer for the next 2 hours. So we are live. So welcome to Just Roll Sixes, the launch show for my new weekly Warhammer chat show. Nick throwing in there straight away. You bake good brownies. He's talking to Miss AOS Pete there.
Yeah, it's definitely not you.
So I'm joined tonight by two legends in the game, two very very different characters, but two absolute legends and two people I'd like to say are very good associates of mine on the scene. Maybe one day we'll make it to friendship, but for
Maybe.
now we'll call ourselves associates. So I'm joined by Freddie. For those of you who don't know Freddie, Freddie is currently the UK #1 ranked AOS player on the T Sports Network. Hello, Freddie. Give us a
Hello, pal. Hello.
hello. Yeah,
I
excellent.
don't know how I'm still somehow there, but yeah, it's just bluff my way there. So happy days. I'll stay
Yeah,
there.
excellent. We'll come back on to how you've got there and your entry into the game and so on very shortly. At the minute, you've got some fans in the chat. At the minute, you've got Phil Marshall and Speckles just chanting "Freddie, Freddie, Freddie." Give them away,
Happy
Freddie.
days. There you go. Look, I got my fans now. Me groupies. So
Excellent.
happy days.
And my other guest is Mark Ward of the Gaff crew, the biggest villains in Warhammer, and the self-proclaimed best death player in the world. Good evening, Mark.
Good evening. I'm far less humble than Freddie. I proclaim it because it's true. No one's better at playing death than I am.
Well, we'll go on to you played some Warhammer this weekend, so we'll talk about how that went very shortly. But as the best death player, I'm probably going to guess that it went very very well. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So we basically, just for those that are joining us for the first time, which should be pretty much everyone because it's the launch show. Basically, I wanted to set up a channel because I've been really bored. I've been, for those that know and follow me on Twitter, I've been unemployed for touching 7 months now. And needed some structure in my life. And I thought what would be great would be to maybe do something, do a show. But instead of getting the same 6 or 7 people, who are all lovely, by the way, and one of them's in the chat, but the same 6 or 7 people on the same shows all the time and just doing their regular guest appearances, I thought I'd get some new faces on the stream. Not necessarily new faces to the scene, but maybe new faces to streaming. And I put a shout out to the community because obviously not being employed, it's tough times. And I was very lucky and very grateful to get some contributions to get the stream up and running, one of which is on this screen. He didn't buy himself onto, in fact, both of you were contributors, I think, actually. So well done on buying your way onto the first show.
Thank you. Only cost a fiver.
Every penny helps. Every penny helps, and it has. And I guarantee every penny went back into the streaming setup. So
I know we're not cheap, are we, Freddie?
No, mate. That was the premium.
And basically, I wanted a structure, and that structure I thought was let's get a Tuesday night, late night AOS show. We are into the 4th minute of the show now, so swearing is allowed. I read the Discord rules and I read the Twitch
Happy
rules,
days.
and I think it was sort of like you can't swear in the first couple of minutes or something. But we are an adult show, so if you've got kids with you, they need to fuck off to bed now. Okay, there we go. I've enabled it, lads. You're fine to go.
I was fucking sweating buckets when you threw it over to me.
Well done, well done. It doesn't mean we need to be gratuitous swearing, but there'll be no sort of bleeping of the language. But yeah, so I wanted a late night Warhammer show, and I wanted to sort of each week get a couple of guests on from the community and just sort of talk Warhammer and Warhammer. To steal a phrase from another streamer, sort of Warhammer adjacent, and just what got you into Warhammer, and maybe talk about some of the things that have happened. So it's going to be the usual boring bit that everybody sort of regurgitates, but I'm going to ask you both to sort of talk about how you got into the hobby and why you're in the hobby. And maybe some people have never heard your origin stories, as they're sort of known if we were being a Marvel blockbuster film. So I'm going to throw it over to Mark first. So Mark, give us a little bit of how you got into the hobby and sort of what club you're a part of and so on. So quick bio.
I wish I could give you an interesting story, Pete, but honestly, it's not. It's so I'm 24 now, despite the fact that I look about 44. And I got into the hobby, I think it's about 15 years ago now. So it was around when I was 9 years old. My dad...
It's taking his toll on it.
Yeah, I looked like this when I was 9 as well. My dad used to get me like a lot of Airfix kits. In fact, I think he's in the next room building some now himself still. Fucking nerd. But yeah, he used to get me a lot of them, and then some kids in my year brought in some 40k as like a show and tell type thing. And because I'd been doing Airfix models and kits before then, that obviously piqued my interest. There was another model thing. It turned out my cousin had been doing it for years anyway. So went round there, and he sort of gave me a few models, and then my grandma took me into our city centre and bought me my first 5 boxes of Space Marines. And since then, you just get hooked, don't you? You get in and then you just can't get out. There's plenty of hobbies that I've dropped, but I don't think I've ever financially been in a position with this hobby where I can just walk away from it. Where it's just, but yeah, the friends I've made here are my best friends now, and I think the ones I had from school have sort of come and gone, but the ones I've made here are the ones I spend most of my time with.
Brilliant. So you sort of started. You said you sort of started there in 40k. What pulled you over to the better side of AOS then?
Oh, the fact that 40k was shit. It was absolutely terrible. Like it was a point where I went to a tournament. I was doing all right at one point, and then this tournament, it was the last one before COVID hit, I think. It was up in Newcastle, and I had the worst weekend of gaming I've ever had. The guys were all great, but and the guy who run the tournament, Ricky's absolutely sound, and the tournament was mostly well run. But a new Grey Knights like rules update had dropped, or like a new Space Marine update dropped the weekend before. So he completely redid the draw of the tournament. So all the Space Marine players got to resubmit their lists after seeing everyone else's. And then I got drawn from an auto win round 1 into the brand new Grey Knights book with someone from our local scene. So we drove 3 hours so I could play someone I already knew just to get smashed by the new hotness.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and then COVID hit and we came back and 40k. We were sort of doing Garden Hammer for a little bit. I had sort of Chaos Knights, so it was a real easy army to just push around. And I was, again, the rules were not built for that list. And I'd been looking at AOS for a while, and then that's when the new box came out. That's when Third Ed dropped. Then I think a few of us just went, we'll give it a go and see what happens, and it just stuck because it's just a better game.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, yeah, it's interesting sort of how you jumped into it and stuff, and we'll come back to that after we sort of ask Freddie then for his origin story in just a second. Freddie, I'm just going to read a couple of messages out from the chat. So Trog, as always, he logged on to watch The Honest Wargamer, clicked on the wrong channel. So thanks, Trog. Gaff Moonhead chanting Mark, Mark, Mark. So absolutely, fans are in the crowd. Speckles says, "Then bash dice are microwaved." Can you confirm or deny that, Freddie?
Ones I've got, yeah. But
Yeah.
the ones I give to everyone else absolutely roll ones all the time. So best way about it.
Good to know. I'll use those for my Battle Shock. This weekend, asked my opponent to pick one dice out of the 4 in my hand to roll my Battle Shock, and obviously he picked one, and I rolled a 6. So just rolling 6s. I was like, brilliant. And then after I'd taken the models off, I remembered actually I had 2 banners in there. That would have been +2 bravery. I wouldn't have lost the full unit. But anyway, that's typical.
Yeah.
Who else have we got? So we've got Blacksmith 79 also chanting Mark, Mark, Mark. Hawkeye, which is Gabe from the ex-Marauders, current Mad team and Teamlit, says he was here the other day. That was the sort of unofficial stream.
The unofficial one, yeah.
That was the unofficial one, you know. Medsy 59, Mangaff are fucking sick. Yeah. He's also in love with Mark. He's also in love with Mark. Yeah. Phil says, I'm a legend. Thank you, Phil. Checks in the post. Dan Gleeballs, loving the chat from across the pond, despite the time difference. Phil says you joined you joined AOS because you idolise Louis Meadows. Any response?
No comment on that one.
No comment.
Contractually, I'm not allowed to say anything about Louis.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Ziggy, who was one of my donors, says, what's this? Someone let Pete have a camera. When will we learn? He was one of the people donating to the stream. Yeah. Medzi59. What does him and Phil have in common? We're not even the best players in our family. Oh, throwing shade. Excellent. I'm guessing Medzi59. I'm guessing is Louis actually. So that's just clicked. Okay, so I'll stop saying Medzi59. I'm guessing that's Louis if the joke is about not even being the best players in their family. So yeah, we've got Alex in the chat as well. So good evening, everyone. So yeah, right. Let's throw it over to someone much more interesting than me. So Freddie, what's your origin story? How did you get into the hobby?
I would say it's the same as Mark, but I definitely did drop it as soon as girls became a thing at like 15, 16. So I was all about the Warhammer life at like 13, 14. Going to Bromley, fucking smoking fools with the old Empire and Tomb Kings. Knew absolutely nothing about actually how to play the game, but like just enjoy rolling dice. And then eventually girls became a thing. And I didn't have the balls really to come back till I actually kind of locked in a girl. I was like, she probably won't leave me now. So that's when I thought, I think it was about a year before COVID, maybe 6 months. And it was like, right, you know what? I need a hobby. I live up in like the Midlands now. I don't know anyone. Let's go find a hobby. And in the end, I was like, look, I enjoy it. I used to like, back then I used to kind of like painting. I hate it fucking now. But then it was like, right, let's start playing. But of course, fucking round here, Bash wasn't really a thing. It was like I just somehow find games. So I stupidly instead signed myself up for a tournament. I think it was my second ever game. I think I played one game at Warhammer World. Second ever game. I went to London Open. So, a nice big tournament to get yourself started.
Nice big tournament. With London Open. I thought that's like 20 players at London
Open. The one that was in the the original.
Sorry, got you. Yeah.
Not that one. Yeah, the original one. With and it was an old book. So first book, painted up all the book I had. I think it had 30 gore in it. Had like 30 gore. There was like 30 bestigores. Everything Gorgon. And I stupidly won my first game. And I think I 20-0'd it, which was really, I didn't at the point, I thought it was great at the time. But when I get paired into game 2, I would get told, you're on the Honest Wargamer stream. Get yourself onto table 1. We're going to live stream you against like the French champion with his Fire Slayer bullshit with the Hearthguard Berserkers that fought twice. It didn't take Battle Shock. And I think I got tabled in turn and a half. It's on YouTube if you fancy go and watch it.
Excellent. If anyone can find that, stick the link in the chat.
That's the third ever game. I played a blinder. I had no chance anyway. And And then after that, I think I was so distraught, I dropped out day 2. And I was like, you know what? That's a great first tournament. And then after that, COVID happened. And then eventually, like the bash scene became like a thing, and I've got to meet Speckles and Garrett Graham and Dean from the Derby area, and that's what basically started me going into the tournament scene. And I think Facehammer 2019 or something, that was one of my first actual tournaments, and then from there I just got hooked, and it was, I haven't stopped ever since, really.
Brilliant, excellent. I think I've probably got a similar story to you, Freddie, in the sense that as a child back in 1945 or whatever, when I was a young child, I'm feeling I sort of jumped into Warhammer after picking up a white dwarf in a newsagent and just sort of loving the big splashy cover, and I think it was it would have been Techless or something. I've got I think I've managed to track down like one of the White Dwarf issues, so I just took it home. And I was like, oh, this looks brilliant. And at that time, Space Crusade and Hero Quest were coming out. I don't know if you Mark might not be quite old enough to remember Space Crusade and Hero Quest.
Speaking of White Dwarf, when you said that though, for Christmas, our mate each got us the White Dwarf that came out the month of our birthday. Like the literal, so I've got July 1998 sat on a shelf over there.
So you were born in 1998?
Yes, July 1998.
Oh, beautiful.
So in 1998, I dropped out of the hobby for the first time. But so that's a fantastic gift. I mean, I'm going to steal that one for other acquaintances in the hobby and sort them out with Secret Santa.
He definitely said the older we got, the harder they were to track down. So I think mine was quite easy.
Yeah, so I found a White Dwarf and Space Crusade and Hero Quest were the games that sort of got me into it, and then sort of expanded from there. Played some High Elves and Skaven. The local gaming scene I grew up on an Air Force base. My dad was in the Air Force, and there was a gaming club there. So my dad was like, "Oh, I'll just drop you off, and it's all good." It's sort of like a close knit community, gated community. So it was all good. They basically just sort of, there was me with my 2,000 point army or whatever of Warhammer Fantasy, and they just went, "Oh, your models aren't painted, mate, you can't play." So I had to sit there for sort of like 6 hours till my dad came back to pick me up because my models weren't painted. So I got gatekeeped very early on.
And now you know.
Yeah, now I know. And then again sort of stopped as I got a bit older and got into sort of bit sports and so on and so forth, and then came back into the hobby again just before lockdown, really. So 2019, Skaven book came out. I'd been looking at sort of a hobby, looked at the GW website, picked up Kill Team when they relaunched it, and I said to my other half, I said, "Oh, I'll pick up one box. You just need one box, and I can play a few games, and that'll be it. And I won't get anything else, and I'll maybe paint the models up, and whatever." And then Skaven dropped, and I was like, "Oh my god, Skaven!" They were one of my first armies alongside High Elves. Looking at the website, I was like, "What the hell? What a Stormcast!" I don't remember these from Fantasy.
Yeah, that was like the big change, wasn't it? It was like looking back at the that like online store, going, "Who the fuck are most of these?" Like,
yeah, zero ideas.
Where's my Empire? I was like, "Where's Empire? Where is it?" Like,
yeah, so you go down that rabbit hole of like Googling everything, and then you come to the video of some like guy burning his army online from Fantasy blowing up and stuff, and I'm like,
I got to like that, too tough, and it was like explaining the old world, and I was like, all right, okay, like I was like, where is this thing AOS come from? When did it end? I want square bases. Like,
you hear the horror stories as well of when, because I think my lull was about when the old world ended and AOS sort of began. So I was never really in when you got like extra points for having a fucking beard.
Yeah.
And shit. And like, I don't know how they ever thought that was going anywhere.
I mean, at some point, I'd love to get Mo on the show to sort of talk because for those that know, the sort of the Mo company sort of almost invented the GHB and the sort of the scoring and so on. I'd love to get him on to sort of have a chat because it's really interesting if you're at a tournament with Mo, have a chat with him about it. But yeah, so again, I found these weird rules and I was like, what? I've got to clop things together. I was like, is this like an episode of Monty Python or something? And I've got to play this out. I was like, I think I'm out. And then Skaven, I was like, oh, all right, I'll give it a go. And just sort of jumped back in. And first tournament was sort of post COVID. First tournament was Carnage. First 2-dayer back in 2 years ago or something, or 18 months, 2 years ago, just before I moved to Manchester. Yeah, Carnage. Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting. So question for you both: are you out gamers or are you sort of hidden gamers?
What does that mean?
I'm as out as it gets.
Do your colleagues, your friends, family, do they know you're a wargamer, or is it still sort of the hidden shame?
I get it all the time at work. So our club nights are Tuesday and Thursdays. So I'll quite often get asked, "Am I loser virgining tonight?" That's why it gets called Loser Virgin Club. Gandalf's, I think Gandalf Club was one. People ask me if I'm spending the weekend dressed as a wizard, stuff like that. Everyone. It's the only interesting thing about me, Pete. To be totally honest, without Warhammer, I'm absolutely nothing. So,
Mark, you've got your modelling career as well, mate. Don't put yourself down.
That is true. Yeah, but without that, I'm just a good-looking bloke, aren't I? And there's hundreds of us out there.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, I can't say I'm the same. I think my family and her family know, and apart from that, not a single soul. It's just it's always awkward trying to explain it or talk about it. Or I can talk about football. I can bullshit them with something else enough that I don't have to explain what I'm doing at the weekend. I can't be asked.
It's interesting, isn't it? I got outed at my job in Essex by accident. Well, not by accident. Sort of, I was COVID. People coming back into work and stuff. And I was talking to one of the team, and I sort of said, "Oh, how was your furlough time?" And he was like, "Oh, it was all right. I played a lot of games and stuff." I was like, "Oh, video games." He goes, "No, bit more expensive than video games." I went, "You play Warhammer, don't you?" And he went, "Yeah, how did you know?" And I was like, "Oh," I was like,
"That's an expensive hobby." Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I sort of said, "Oh, I play Warhammer as well." I was like, I don't really sort of talk about it. And he was quite a junior member of the team. None of the rest of my team knew. If I said I was going away for a weekend or I was having mates around, it was always just, "I'm going away for a weekend," or "I'm having mates around." And then sort of I'm in a staff meeting with like 6 of my senior managers, and the retail manager comes in, and he's a guy called Mike who's like in his 60s, and he just goes, "Oh, I've heard you're a fucking nerd." I was like, "Oh, great." So the junior member of the team in the staff room had been like, "Oh, I was talking to the boss, and he plays Warhammer like me, isn't it?" And they were all like, "What?" So I got sort of outed for it, and I was like, whatever, So I started talking about it, and sort of, it was quite well known. People would be like, "Oh, how did you get on at a tournament and stuff?" And then when I moved to my my first job in Manchester, I met up with my new boss, who's also called Pete. And somehow he was sort of like, "Oh, what do you get up to and stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I'm just going to say," I was like, "Oh, I play a tabletop wargame." He was like, "Oh, I play Warhammer as well." I was like, "Oh, sweet." I said, "Age of Sigmar." He goes, 40k. I was like, "Well, can't be helped. Can't be helped." And so it's sort of, we connected on that level, and I gave him a couple of practice games of AOS, and he's sort of still now a year on. Sort of, he has a game every now and again. He's building a corn army so he can run it in both systems. Yeah. So it was funny though, because we had lunch. We had a big team lunch, and someone was saying to me, "Oh, what are you up to at the weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go play Warhammer." And one of the guys was like, "Oh, isn't that nerdy?" Someone else was like, "Oh, what's that? Tell me about it." And they were really engaged. And I thought, it's not for me to out somebody else, so I'm not going to mention that Pete also plays it. And he just sat there really quietly. But everyone else, I think it's one of those things, when you talk passionately about a hobby, people respond to it.
Yeah.
And I think they pick up on that vibe. And I swear, like 5 more minutes, I'd have had one of the other managers coming to buy his first 2,000 point army. And
then they see how much it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was sort of like quite sort of open about it. And one of the guys sort of just, they all started getting up. And then Pete sort of just very quietly and meekly goes, I also play Warhammer. But so quietly that no one else could hear him. And it was like, that was that. So, yeah, but I've recently fully outed myself on my LinkedIn profile.
I ain't done that.
There's context. So I need obviously 7 months unemployed. I need to cover some employment gaps. So I've posted up some of my volunteering things that I've done. Helping run tournaments and so on. So yeah, I've posted a nice little bit that a future employer will see about me being my authentic self.
Yeah, mine's on my CV as well, being part of the committee that runs, because you've been to our club for the tournament I ran.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm part of the committee that runs that, so it's all CV stuff. But I was pre-outed at work, so someone I knew sort of got me my interview at the place I'm at now, and it was so how do you know him? And this guy has no sort of like social. Like, I'll maybe keep that a nerd, like, to myself. He's like, we'll play Warhammer together, and I know him because of this. So, yeah, I have a guy now who I used to work with. He's in a different department in a different building. He still messages me to call me a nerd. Maybe once a month. When the D&D film came out, he went, are you going to go see it? I was like, I don't know. He went, yeah, you will, you fucking geek. Cheers, Ben. Always nice to hear from you.
It's an interesting one. I mean, Phil has just said he's loud and proud as a wargamer. I mean, if I was as skilled as Phil is at the game and I was off, playing in Vegas and stuff, I'd probably be shouting it about a bit more.
It's hard to hide that one when you're just in Vegas, yeah.
Yeah. So
now my painting's managed to carry me a little bit because I'm fairly decent at painting. So when people sort of, because that's mainly what I got into the hobby for, was sort of like the actual hobby aspect rather than the gaming. And when people ask if I've got any pictures of my stuff, I tend to pick out like one of my best bits, and then they leave you alone a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
If there's something that you're quite good at, all if you went, yeah, I'm actually on Team England. Actually, they sort of go, oh, right, yeah. That's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think again, for those that know, I do a masters, and it's a sporting directorship masters. So I've got like professional athletes on my course, and I've got an ex-England rugby pro on my course. And he's still playing, and he sort of will he'll be like, this weekend I'm going off to smash some guys on the pitch or whatever. And I always just sort of say, I'm off with mates or whatever. And this weekend he was like, what are you up to? And I just, without even thinking, I just went, I'm going to roll some dice. And he went, what do you mean? So I sort of said,
a gambling addiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe there's a reason why you don't have a job, Pete. Can't hold it down because of the dice. And yeah, so I sort of just sort of said, I do this, and this is what I do, and whatever. And he was like, that's cool. Each their own and stuff. He's a nice guy, but I'm sure that sort of some of his fellow players would probably have just ripped me a new one and stuff. And there's definitely some people on the course I wouldn't tell. But I was like, yeah, it's not quite the same though. You're going up and down the country and going internationally to smash people on the pitch and show a prime example of sportsmanship and so on. And I'm rolling dice, getting really fucked off when I see a 6 and smashing pints. It's not quite the same. So Phil says he's going to New York next. So I saw this on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw he posted on Twitter as well. Off to the tough crowd, isn't he? He's off to go see tough crowd.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to myself that if when I finish my dissertation in December, providing I have a job and stuff, that I'll try and get over to LVO or CanCon next year, because I was gutted to miss out this year. I did have a ticket for it and stuff. Mark, would you ever fly abroad to roll some dice?
I was recently abroad. I was in Scotland. I was in the deep north playing Warhammer. The uncharted lands.
Tell us about that, mate.
It was. You know what? We all thought it'd be absolutely freezing. I think it was nicer than Hull was weather-wise. It was. There was a point where we were walking around in t-shirts. We were completely caught off guard. But the thing that stood out to me the most was the moment we got there. I was playing the guy who'd been to play. I don't know if you've met JJ before.
Yeah, JJ. Yeah, he's beat me on the table. Yeah.
So yeah, we went. we basically went to go see him while the tournament was running, and so he asked one of us if we wanted to play round one. So I, being the cocky guy I am, I was like, yeah, I'll take down the number. I think he's like the number 1 ranked guy in Scotland. I was like, yeah, I can go up there and beat him, no problem. And he was like, yeah, everyone in Scotland uses the terrain rules, by the way, so you have some tokens. I was like, sorry, what? Like, everyone uses the terrain, and they did. And it's weird them just being like, Scotland, yeah, we use the terrain rules. It says it's the rule book, so we use it.
Are you sure this wasn't just them winding up the Englishman?
I don't know. They all had tokens. They all had tokens, Pete. You can tell if they've got the tokens. Those don't come cheap.
No, that's true.
Getting them laser cut. No, they're all. It was all great. I think Louis ended up playing someone from Yorkshire.
Well,
we've gone that way. Yeah.
It's funny. So I've been up to Scotland for a tournament as well. I think you went to Glasgow. Did you go to Broken Realms? Was it?
Yeah, Broken Realms. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to Scott's tournament, which I'm really sorry the
Northern Invasion.
No, Tempest. So I went to Tempest, and which is in Stirling, and I played 3 Englishmen that weekend out of 5 players.
I played a teammate as well. I played a teammate round 3.
Yeah. And then the next tournament I think was Warhammer World, and I played 2 of the Scottish guys who'd come down. So I was like, it's just this weird scenario. Out. But how did you find overall the experience travelling up to Scotland though? Good experience.
You know what? It was spot on. I think we hired out like a minivan, so we're all travelling in the same car rather than splitting it up, and I think that made it great because it's a long drive.
Yeah,
up to Scotland, but yeah, there was 4 of us in the back, and that made it great. And then we'd got like an Airbnb as well, which is a bit. I think next time we'd have probably just stayed because it was being held at a hotel, but we were like, we'll get an Airbnb so we're all in the same spot, and it was a bit. It wasn't the best. I ended up sleeping on the floor for 2 days. I had like a little joked. I had like a little nest. Gaff Moonhead in the chat, I was basically sleeping at his feet in this, like, we'd got all the pillows from around the Airbnb and all the bedding, and I'd basically slept on that. And it wasn't actually that bad. But yeah, if anyone can like travel a long way and go for like a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, anyone who followed me on Twitter, we were right next to like this big park. So we woke up early on the Sunday morning to go for a nice walk around in the park, and it genuinely felt just more like a holiday than a tournament. The worst bit was having to play Warhammer 5 games.
Or the drive back on Sunday night.
Yeah, we'd booked the Airbnb for the Monday, but I don't think anyone wanted to stay another night. And someone went, John was the one driving, and he went, you know what, I won't mind driving back. And I think everyone just went, well, if you're willing to do it, yeah, let's do it, let's go.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got back at 2:30 in the morning, or I know I got back at 2:30, and then Louis had been dropped off and then had to drive another hour back to his house.
Oh.
And his car was frozen up and everything. So he was sat there defrosting his car at 2 in the morning.
Gav Moonhead in the chat says he thinks about it every night, you sleeping at his feet, and he's done a winky smiley face as well. So you can pick that one up afterwards.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry, we intend to.
So, Freddie, I know that you're flying abroad for some Warhammer very shortly. So, where are you going?
I'm off off to AOS World with the Northern Ireland team. So that's in 2nd of June, is it? So we're looking forward to it. Bit more of a chilled out affair. And I'm currently learning how to drink, so I can just be one with the Northern Irish lot because I believe they like to go for it.
The stream keeps cutting out there, Freddie. It sounds like you're saying Northern Ireland rather than England team.
Northern Ireland, yeah.
Northern Ireland. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Aren't you the number 1 ranked UK player?
Yeah, at the minute, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wasn't at the time.
Oh, okay. Fair
Northern
enough.
Ireland's in the UK, Pete. It's fine.
So obviously, I'm not going to dwell too much on the England representation, because I'm sure that call will come next year for definite. But how did the Ireland connection come about then? So how's that all come about?
Basically after Team UN was told that we were no longer required for Worlds. One of the Northern Ireland guys had dropped out, and it was basically said there isn't many more competitive players in Northern Ireland. Do you want to pop over and join us? And basically said you can play whatever you want. We can just cause chaos. So I was like, happy days.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. So lists have been submitted now, have they?
They have, but they're getting revealed tomorrow, I think. So I can't say just yet what I'm playing, but it's going to be some weird jank that you all expect.
Go on, give us an exclusive, Freddie. Give us an exclusive. Just tell us what you're playing. Go on.
I'm playing Cities.
Cities. There. Oh my God, I was not expecting it.
There you go.
There we go.
Big surprise. I wasn't allowed to play bot.
Phil in the chat has said Paladors then.
There may be one, maybe two, maybe none. You never know.
Freddie, I've actually got some Paladors on my shelf. Yeah, you inspired me. You can tell how close I've got to running them. Then.
Oh, fantastic! You went for blue armor, did you?
No, I bought them semi-painted. Phil says it's 50-point deduction for leaks. Well, he hasn't leaked anything. He didn't. No one's watching the show, so that's fine.
Exactly. I haven't said anything.
Exactly. We'll.
I'm sure people have already fucking worked it out by now.
Yeah,
let's be honest. Where did you work out from 90% of the people going who what they brought?
Yeah,
I think it's not much of a hidden.
No, I don't think so. It's an interesting one, Freddie, because they must have lost my mobile number because I was actually born in Northern Ireland. Maybe next time.
Maybe next year. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for those that know and those that don't know, Freddie and I were co-captains for Team UN. I unfortunately had to drop due to the job situation. Otherwise, I'd have been wouldn't have been going over it. Turns out, but that was something that we were quite looking forward to. Phil's giving me a bit of grief. Northern Irish, Italian, English, anyone else? It's funny you say that, Phil. I found out at Christmas when my dad came to visit that I spent the first maybe 6-7 months of my life living in Wales, which I'd never known until literally Christmas time.
That makes you more Welsh than the rest of the Welsh team, doesn't it?
Oh, shots fired from the Northern Irish man. Oh.
The Northern Irish, yeah.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean,
me and a few of the gaff lads. I'm captaining Team Albania for the next one as well. So, if we've got anyone from Albania watching who's decent at Warhammer, just hit me up on Twitter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You heard it here first. Team Albania for next year. I think someone did try and set up Team Cyprus. I know who it was. I won't say, but I think someone did try and set up Team Cyprus one year.
I also heard someone try and set up Team Africa. And had Nathan Prescott and Graham and all them because there's quite a few
continent.
Yeah, well, there's not enough African players to be able to make multiple teams, but you could probably bring them all together.
It was interesting. It was at this weekend, wherever I was, Warhammer World, Warhammer Fest this weekend, and there was a few people sort of just saying. I overheard them talking about sort of Team England and all Team Ireland and Team Scotland and Worlds and stuff, and they were just sort of like who appoints these people to represent the nation and stuff. We'll just set up Team England. We'll be Team England. Who says we can't be? And it's an interesting one. I think there's probably more could be done to maybe talk about sort of how the structure of the countries come about, how the selection process comes about, and so on. I mean, I know how the selection process came about because I was one of the selectors this year. So
Team Yorkshire keeps popping up I hear Team Yorkshire every now and again because we are the best Warhammer county, I think, and it's been quite clear.
Warhammer County. That's bold.
Oh, Yorkshire would destroy everyone. So I'm sorry, Freddie. There's not. there's no competition here. Team Yorkshire would absolutely dominate the rest of the continent.
So here's one for you then, Mark. Are you guys coming to Carnage, or are you coming to the Teams Carnage later in the year or anything?
I think we'll be coming to. I'll be at the Teams Carnage. Unfortunately, I'm not at the Carnage coming up because I'm actually double booked for a Mordheim event.
Oh, fair enough.
Talking about old games.
Yeah.
I'm actually a Mordheim event that I said I'd be attending for the last 3 years, and I think I've skipped out for Carnage last year. So I actually had to go to this one.
So what I'm thinking is whether, and it looks as if Louis is saying most of us are coming, and I don't know whether he's talking about Carnage there or Team Carnage. But
I think we've got a fair few going to singles Carnage. I'm just not. Okay. I think Toby's finally coming out of retirement for that one.
I heard he's down like a black hole of World of Warcraft or something. And,
yeah, absolutely.
So what I was thinking was at Carnage, as it's and maybe we. Do you know what? I've got it. I've actually got it. We could do it at Hull first, so at your place first, the Gaff, yes. And then we could do the follow up at Teams Carnage. But let's get a War of the Roses.
Absolutely. I think we've all wanted it. Louis was talking about a potential whenever we go properly out of town to go as unite all the Yorkshire teams into one Team Yorkshire.
Let's do it. So let's sort out then. So we'll try and figure something out. But let's try and get a War of the Roses. We'll do a test series. So best of 3. We'll do home away, and then we'll do a neutral tournament as well.
Warhammer World's got to be the final.
Yeah, Warhammer World,
the final proving ground, surely, where it all began, where it was all made.
I love it. So okay, you've heard it here first. We're going to do a War of the Roses. We'll figure out the rules and so on and so forth. But it'll be a test match series, best of 3. We'll get a trophy made, and let's make it an annual occurrence.
I love it. Get a plate. I like the idea of a plate.
Yeah. Brilliant. Louis already trying to throw shade. He's saying he's got 100% win rate versus me, and I'm maybe the most overrated player he's ever seen. I mean, my mum doesn't rate me, Louis. I'm not overrated.
He was telling me, he's like, look, you have to go on there and cut a fucking promo. Remember the one rule: Gaffer heals.
Oh no! So I love it. I think a War of the Roses. We'll get it going on because you guys have got. Let's talk about clubs. I'll throw it to Freddie. So first, tell us a little bit about Team Bash. What do they represent? What do they stand for? Who's in the team? What's the deal?
I mean, we don't have an official team, but I mean, I'd say out of the competitive ones, it's sat with me and Speckles at the minute. But I mean, one thing about the Derby scene is it's very much about non-meta, like find your solution, like to the meta basically. So it's a lot of really weird lists. That's probably where I've got my ideas from. And to be honest, I probably have about a 70% loss rate at Bash. I get spanked most weeks. We got one guy in our club called Michael. He's never lost. 3 years, never lost. Honestly, I think if he came to UK to the actual tournament, he'd win everything. But I mean, lovely bunch of lads. I think there's always one of them winning most sporting or bet. It's. Lovely gang, and don't take competitive Warhammer too seriously, which is, let's be honest, that's kind of what you want.
I mean, when you've got Speckles in your team, you're not taking it too seriously anyway, are you?
Speckles has, I've corrupted Speckles, like Big Phil has corrupted me. When I was, lovely, 3-2-2-3 gamer, it was Big Phil that was like, I actually try and do something now. And then I started performing, and then I was like, "Come on, Speckles, come with me." And he's done 3-4 ones in a row, Speckles. I mean, with the fake.
Yeah, exactly. So, with the book that's the oldest book now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he tabled me last week with it. And it's I mean, how he's still moulding that list, and I mean, he's he might go, who knows, for the 5-0. I don't think he wants it enough.
He's in the chat. He says that you definitely did push him. He went 4-1 3 times in a row because of you. The only thing that I've played Speckles. I had the privilege of playing him at my first Carnage, actually, and I think we spent more time doing shots than we did rolling dice.
He's definitely trying to teach me how to drink, but I'm still lacking.
So what does Team Bash stand for anything? It does the BASH.
Oh, it's so Team Bash is Boards and Swords Hobbies. So it's just the club that we play out of. So Speckles does run tournaments there. So we've done, I think Speckles run 2 or 3 2 days and quite a lot of 1-dayers. So really good affairs. You get Domino's pizza. Not out here sponsoring them, but like it's very similar to that sort of Warrior Lodge. Like it's a chilled out affair. It's not pure filth everywhere. So it's a nice little tournament.
We'll stick a pin in that. We'll come back to the sort of the smaller tournament scene. I'd definitely like to have a chat about that in a sec. So, Mark, you're so we've referred to it as GAF. Tell us a little bit more about GAF and what it's about.
We are the biggest band of shit talking mid-card I think you'll ever meet. I think there is next to no gaming ability in our team except for maybe one member, but we will tell you and believe we're the best. Sometimes we pull a result. Who knows? But it's we're just I think most people have seen the pink flame shirts right about, and then the face paint came about a year ago as well. I think that started in the Birmingham GT, which will be nearly coming up to a year. I think it was last May. That was the first time we were walking through a Birmingham industrial estate with pink face paint on. But I joined it about a year ago, and it's just about going to tournaments non-stop and just being a part of AOS, being a part of the community, really.
And you didn't actually say what GAF stands for there. I think
it's Grand Alliance Friendship is the best of the Grand Alliances. Maybe there's death and then there's friendship just there.
Do you know what? and this is awful. I've never made the connection that it's like Grand Alliance Friendship. I've never made that connection till you've just said it then. So I can see why I don't win many games at the minute.
That destruction smooth brain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is, isn't it? Push it forward.
Occasionally, with my Hrothgorn, I used to do a deep strike from behind as well.
Every now and then,
yeah. Okay, no, that's brilliant. I mean, it's certainly you guys definitely stand out, and I think that, again, the first time I saw Gaff at a tournament was at Carnage, I think, and you were just you were the loudest, brashest guys in the venue, and I just thought, what a bunch of dickheads.
We had that. I think the first Warrior Lodge event I went to, it was a one dayer. In fact, it was a year ago. The weekend just gone. Right. So on Monday, I got a Facebook memory about it being a year to that day. And Louis had gone, when we get in there, because you're the new guy, I need you to announce that we've arrived. And so I go, yeah, sure. You both met me. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. So we walk into the venue, and I just go, introducing the Grand Alliance Friendship. I've never seen anyone look less impressed with someone walking into a venue than they looked with me.
I think your gaming group is the perfect example of never judging a book by its cover, because honestly, like I say, I thought you, and as someone who's quite loud and brash and so on, I thought, oh my god, these guys, they're so loud, they're so they're so over the top with the face paint and so on and so forth. And then it was at a Warrior Lodge event. I sort of me and Alex spent an evening with you guys on the shots.
That was I don't drink. I was just there for it.
And just absolutely, like, there was more colours and more neon shots than there were on your jerseys, and getting to know you guys actually sort of individually was just brilliant actually, and I really loved it. And then it did lead to one of the lowest points of my life, which was the following morning throwing up in Weatherspoon's toilets in Sutton in Ashby.
Oh, honestly, that Weatherspoon's has been has been the bane of everyone's thing. I remember, I don't think it was that event, but obviously, because I don't drink, I'm the guy who drives us to the hotel afterwards. And I remember a night where I think Duncan almost fell off his chair, and both him and Toby went outside to throw up in that same night. And I had to load him into my car. And I think once we got to the Holiday Inn, Toby just fell out of my car and rolled out into the car park. That place is having a Wetherspoons that close. Having a Wetherspoons that close to a gaming venue is just horrendous.
It's yeah, I mean they should have like a blue plaque and just underneath everybody who's thrown up in the vicinity of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. So yeah, no, I would say that anyone who sort of does judge a gaming group too early and sort of presume something, definitely think twice. Definitely.
I'm waiting for when we go international and start beefing with Tough Crowd, because I think Gaff versus Tough Crowd has the makings of something special. Honestly. I think that's going to go off the rails. I think someone dies. I think someone gets killed. In that.
Louis says, "Call them out. Do it."
Well, if any of them watching, any of you fucking Yanks, will come back and finish what the British started originally.
Oh wow!
We'll go to America.
So basically, the show gets cancelled after 1 week due to
me killing Gaff are going to recolonize.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to cut the promo, you need to do it on July the 4th, in Independence Day, or July 4th. Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, Independence Day. So, I mean, you could just start by beating Big Phil because he is a honorary member of.
Yeah, he seems to be an honorary member. I don't like this whole turncoat.
I mean, is that like you have to get through Big Phil to get the Tough Crowd?
Some fucking Uncle Sam. It's not for me. That some weird American mercenary. Yeah.
No,
disgusting.
So no, it's interesting. So that's that. I mean, I came to your tournament in Hull was it January? Is it as far back as that?
Yes,
January. Yeah.
January. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
The last tournament of the last GHB, I believe it was.
Yes,
it was. New one came out the week after, I think.
I
think it was pre-ordered at my event, and then
and because it had been leaked in advance, I think I was straight on Twitter to sort of just as a wind up, just like, so will you be playing the new GHB this weekend, as it is available to all, and here is a copy for anyone who doesn't have it. To which Mark was like, of course fucking not.
I think I replied with yes.
Yeah, no, initially, yeah. Sorry, yes.
Alex went, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. No, you're right, actually. Yeah, Alex got a bit annoyed at that one and was like, well, I'm not going then. And ended up not going anyway. But it wasn't down to the GHB. But no. How did you end up, or why did you end up wanting to run your own tournament?
So, I'm part of a club. So, the AOS team I'm part of is Grand Alliance Friendship, but in Hull we actually have an independently run gaming club, which I think as well is the only sort of independent game club that has a permanent venue. So most places sort of have to take everything up and put it away. Sort of they rent out a social club or a sports hall, maybe like once an evening, and then have to put everything away into storage. Our gaming club's a non-profit one that actually has its own venue. So the place where you went, Pete, is where we're based full time. And so it's wanting to run that. It was for Hull's Angels, the gaming club. So it's how we stay open basically. And being a big AOS player is obviously what I play. It made the most sense that would be the event I ran. And so it's all to make money for the club and to bring people in. So obviously the more people that come out of town, the bigger the name gets, and then. Because it's how we stay open, and it's with Hull. A fair few people do obviously play in each other's houses, but we don't have like a big gaming venue nearby that isn't us. So we don't have like a Sanctuary. We don't have a Warhammer World. We don't have an Element Games. If our club closes, a lot of people don't have places to play without going miles to either like York or something like that. So yeah, that's the main reason why we run events in that venue is to basically make sure everyone has a community space in which to play.
Wow, that got really deep really quickly, but
yeah,
wow.
Quite emotional.
Yeah, that's a fantastic fantastic story on that. I mean, I'd say to anyone who's considering going to one of the events at Hulls Angels, definitely go. It was a fantastic vibe. Felt really welcomed at the venue. Really enjoyed it. What I would say is when you'll have to use Google Maps to find the store, and if you're thinking, "Oh, I'll just pop down the day before the tournament and just pop in," you can't. It looks like the bin store for one of the shops next door to it.
Yeah, we're above. I think someone before the tournament had started. Obviously, I'm trying to kind of make semi-cringy names for my events. So I think the one I've got in July is something like Slaughter in the Sunshine or something like that. I think someone had put out a tweet going, "This tournament's called Death in the Heart of the North in the Snow," and it's 12 guys above a Greg's. And our club is above a Boys. It's not even above a Greg's. I was like, yeah, I feel personally attacked on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a ticket for the event in October.
The
already.
Gaff Jamboree. Yeah, so that one's not Hulls Angels, but our venue is also available to hire for anyone who wants to run an event and all our mats and terrain. That's kind of what we do, and I'm helping run the Gaff Jamboree.
Right. Okay, brilliant.
We have some that are purely for Hulls Angels to benefit from, and then if anyone wants to hire the room, which is what's happening in this case.
Yeah, no, as I say, I'd definitely come back. I think the only, I'd definitely come back to one of yours if there wasn't a clash and stuff.
I think our toilet exploded. I think that was the thing that went wrong.
Yes,
we have fixed that since. But the toilet was fucked.
As someone who, as you know, likes to dress like they're a 40-year-old man who thinks he could be a basketball player and has spends $1 on his sneakers, walking into the toilets was just like, oh god, no! Should I go and get some plastic bags to cover up my trainers? But no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
You know what? It brings people to Hull, the best city in the world. And you know what? No, don't start laughing, Freddie, because it's fantastic. It's a fantastic city. I'm born and bred Hull. Don't like leaving it for too long. And yeah, everyone. You know what? The thing that seems to entice people to our events the most is, I don't know if you went to Crawshaw's while you were here, Pete, which was the meat place just down. People go fucking nuts for that place. It's cheap shit meat, and it's people. I took people from uni there before, and it blew their minds. They're all from the south. You're like, you can't get meat this cheap.
They're in Derby as well. They're basically everywhere in the Midlands. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't know that.
We can say it's special in Hull.
Ours is special though.
Yeah,
ours is special.
Slightly bigger, yeah.
Yeah, it's where everyone gets fed.
Yeah,
it's the only place people can afford.
I think there's definitely something though about the extras that sort of go around a tournament, and that ability to sort of go for a sort of a beer afterwards, or a bite to eat, or grab something from lunch. And again, going back to Warrior Lodge, the one thing they've got it all, apart from when you then have to leave the venue. There's nothing else inside in Ashfield.
Yeah.
We
have a bit more in Hull than sitting in Ashfield.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it is right next door to a Spoons. So what more do you really?
There is only Spoons though.
Yeah,
that is true.
Yeah. So it's Freddie. I think the first time. I mean, I sort of said how I met Mark. I think the first time we met was at Justice Series.
I think Justice was the first one in terms of what I remember is. I think you went 3-2, didn't you, with Ogres?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And I was old Bok, and I just remember. I think I was like Norton 2 or something like that, and then I remember versus Peter, like Polish Peter, on the bottom table with 30 Sentinels and 3 Foxes. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing down here?" And it was
right. I said so. I had him day 2 this weekend. Right, 1 win, 2 losses. He's on the same record, and I said the exact same thing to him. He was there with his bow snakes, and I went, "What's gone wrong for you for me to have to face you this weekend? Like, I'm expecting some walkover."
You do. You're like, I want a nice chilled out game. You look across, you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, Yeah, it happens.
Yeah,
I didn't beat him though, but yeah, that
uh,
bloody list though.
yeah. I think though that at that point you were sort of we sort of got to talking that event, and then it was War in the Heartlands not long afterwards, and sort of we spoke there as well. I think War in the Heartlands is the first time I spoke to Big Phil actually, and it's just I think the great thing about this community, and maybe I bang on about it too much, it being a community, but for someone who does go to a lot of tournaments and sort of has on occasion gone on their own, it just does feel like a community. Like I genuinely look forward to seeing people like yourselves at events and catching up and having a beer and a talk about Warhammer. And it sounds so cheesy, but it's the community that's there for me, because it certainly isn't the results at the minute. It certainly isn't the results.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is just like it's tough, especially when you go to like your first tournaments and that sort of stuff, and you don't know anyone, and the only person you're really talking to is the person you just played. And like and it's I think the groups now, like the communities now, are far more willing to just talk to around, getting other people involved. And I think when I first started, it was you weren't talking to many people. Do you know what I mean? And I think I've been fortunate that the more I played, the more people I talked to. But I've definitely tried to make more of a conscious effort to talk to freaking everyone. Like everyone's got a good opinion on Warhammer, and everyone just loves the hobby. So I think it's definitely getting better in terms of that. And like at the end of the day, everyone just wants to push their toys around and roll dice. Apart from when I played Speckles, I took his models off in one turn. Sorry, Speckles, but I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, no,
I think there's a definite point into that I think with genuinely, because I've been a part of both tournament scenes, it's not something you'd feel as much with 40k. There was groups in 40k that you'd know being a big player, but I don't think, even though I was going to tournaments basically every other month with 40k, I don't know if there'd have been a point where I'd have gone on my own, thinking I'll be fine to go to a 2-dayer on my own and be able to still talk to people. With AOS, I wouldn't mind at all. I'd happily just go on my own and go. I'm going to know people there, so I'll have something to do on the night. We'll be able to go somewhere, and she'll make a difference.
Do you think that's? Do you think that's down to the fact that the community for AOS is maybe a bit smaller? The tournament scene is maybe a bit smaller. 40k.
Maybe.
I think there's a definite. I think that's definitely a part of it. Yeah.
I think there's a bit more of love of what we're actually playing and stuff like that. 40k just seems like you bring the filth, you play, if you lose, you go home. Where AOS it's a bit more, I'm enjoy being here sort of thing, and everyone in that way is friendlier and more open to talking, and there's not as many cutthroat games.
Freddie, you just said that you got stomped in your first tournament and went home on day 2.
I did.
Freddie rage quit his first ever tournament. It's not about the results.
That's the only rage quit. That was.
Now I think there's a lot more. The standard of hobby is far. This might be a hot take, but the standard of hobby is far higher in AOS than it is in 40k. You do. I think it might just be because it's a bigger game. 40k. Admittedly, it is bigger than AOS. But there was far more times where you go to a tournament. I remember seeing one picture. I think it went around Twitter and on the internet of a 40k stream from, I think it was Adepticon, where the two armies were identical and they'd both been sent to the same commission painter who had done the exact same job, and they were in the exact same position on either end of the field. It was two Harlequin armies. They were both sat in corners, identically positioned on either side of the board in the exact same colour scheme. And you just don't get that with AOS, I don't think.
No.
I think even a lot of the top players, like Toby, all his armies look great.
Yeah,
and yellow.
He's had
yeah.
His stuff he's had to churn out quickly, but they all look like he has actually put some effort into it and he cares. But some of the 40k armies at the top look absolute shit. They're not built with like this is fun in mind. It's built with I can play this for a month and then sell it when I know the next meta list's coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that probably why it happens, because the churn of codex creep is so quick that you basically are just churning it out for the next event. I mean, I'm I paint quickly because I'm not a very good painter. I could probably spend longer on models, but yeah, I sort of get that. I mean, yeah, it's fair. I think that, I mean, so I spoke earlier, when I jumped back into the hobby, I decided that I would try 40k and AOS at the same time, to see which system I liked, whether I liked them both, and which I'd stick with. And I think that was because I never played 40k as a kid, but I did love the lore. I think 40k, and maybe it's just the Horus Heresy, but the 40k lore is more developed. It's been going longer. It's it's got characters that and arcs that follow through it. So I played my first game of AOS, like not competitively, but at a casual game. And again, with Warhammer Fantasy Brain in mind, even with round bases, I lined up all my Skaven clan rats in 2 ranks and moved them forward and stuff. And I've got a photo of my first deployment, and it looks as bad as my current deployments. Still don't know. Still don't know what screens are for. Maybe I'll get someone on the show who can explain what a screen is for at some point. But so I played a couple of AOS games. I met the guys who eventually became the Essex Moor Tribes with myself, Russ, Ed, Nick, and the guys. And at the same time as I'm playing these casual games of AOS, the store, 40k in Colchester, they were running a narrative 40k league. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I smashed through. I did that thing of like, I'll build my Marines, I'll get them done. I'm going to play Iron Hands because it's the simplest scheme to paint. Lead Belcher. A black shoulder pad, paint my weapons red, and do my bases bit Martian red and do the rims black. So I got it done quickly, but it was a narrative league. I was like, it's cool. I'll put out there that I'm new to the game. I want to learn how to play, and it's narrative. Narrative. Fuck me, did I get smashed off the table 6 times in a row before I rage quit. So like the first guy, he was all right. He was a nice enough guy. Still smashed me off the table with his Eldar army, and I was like, oh, okay, fine. The next guy I played had like a load of Forge World stuff. So he was playing Chaos, and he had like these big ships and stuff, and like horrendously OP. And I'm learning the game, so I'm not necessarily putting buff models next to things and stuff. And he's like, right, well, I can come over here, I can switch that buff off. Not that you put it in the right place anyway, you fucking idiot. And just lifts all my toys off. So I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't get to play with my toys this week again. And played another guy, nice enough guy, but lifted my toys off. And so it happened like 6 times. And I said to the last guy, I was like, how come you're playing in this narrative league? You seem like you're quite well up on the game. You seem like you know what you're doing. He's like, no, if I play in the competitive one, I get stomped, so I stay in this one so I can stomp people. And I just went, I'm done. I was like, at least with Age of Sigmar, with my clan rats, I could move around the table before Ed would shoot off my Thanquol with his Seraphon or whatever, and I felt like I was getting a game. Whereas this narrative league of 40k just destroyed me. I've got Ben from the Moor Tribes in the group chat saying about my painting, don't do yourself a disservice, Pete. Your Skaven army was the talk of the Facebook groups, as I recall. It was. So I did in fact, I've got one of the models here. I've got my Screaming Bell. I decided to do a concept army for Skaven. Wow. And the concept was quick. That was the concept. So can you see that?
Oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah, so dry brush as well, is it?
It's all dry brushed. Yeah, it's all dry. No, it's dry brush.
It's like the first stages of slap chop, and it's just like,
and it stopped.
You know what? That's all right.
It is. There is a white highlight, dry brush over it. Tesseract.
3 colours, mate.
Yeah, Tesseract Green had just come out at the time, so I thought it was very thematic. The base is actually a textured base; it's a different colour again, so grey. My rims are painted. So I posted this up. On a Facebook group for Skaven the day before or the day of a tournament that we were doing our first ever 1-day tournament, and oh my god, the grief I was getting! Like, people were absolutely laying into me, like really going mad, like, you're a fucking moron, you're a disgrace to the hobby. That I wouldn't let that play in my tournament. And my club mates came very much to my defence. They jumped in the group chat and were like, well, he can play in a fucking tournament because he's coming to our fucking tournament. You guys are all fucking mugs. And it all kicked off, and this guy got kicked out of the group. It wasn't our group, it was someone else's group. They got kicked out. So it caused massive controversy. I did there was 120 clan rats. There was storm vermin. There was all sorts. I did repaint it in the end. Apart that one hasn't been done because I just sort of left it, but I've repainted the rest of it mainly because I did feel bad because I'd look down at the army and I'm like going, where the fuck does that unit end and the next one start? Because it's 120 clan rats.
Just go where's the warlock? He's somewhere in here.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've also been hunted by an angry Facebook hobby mob, but it was for something completely unrelated to painting.
Oh, go on.
So you remember the weekend that the Indomitus box set came out, and it was when GW's underproduction of boxes very much became highlighted. And I'm friends with someone who likes to buy the boxes and split them out.
Oh,
so
scalper!
Not scalping, box splitting. So he's actually doing the community a service, in that when people don't want to buy the full box, they can just buy the bits that they need. So he'd managed to get a hold of I don't know how many boxes. It was a lot. And what we'd done in his back garden was build an actual throne out of all the boxes. And I'd sat on it, holding a box of Indomitus and taken a picture, and then uploaded it onto one of the Facebook groups to see just how. And it just went off straight away. So we were spending the day clipping stuff out and putting it in boxes, and there were people trying to find out where I worked. They were like, "Oh, I think this guy works at Element Games." And there was someone going, "No, he doesn't." There was people wishing me dead. People were like, "I hope you fucking die. I hope you get killed." I was like, I eventually deleted it. I can take flack, but I was getting concerned that people were looking for where I worked.
God, those friendly 40k players, eh? Always make everyone.
Honestly, it was. Even there was at one point, I can't remember what someone had done, but it was. I don't know how much I can say on Twitch, so I won't say what he said.
No, be careful, yeah.
Even someone after he'd said that went, "Dude, what the fuck?" Even they were like, "Bro, calm down."
Yeah, it's bad when someone's like, "I'm going to step away from this argument I've just started."
Someone above had said, "I hope you get hit by a car," and they were like, "Whoa, dude, that's too much."
Wow.
Whoa, that's too much.
Over toy soldiers.
Yeah, people did not like me in that moment. It felt a little bit good though. I think that's where my gaff heel run really started.
Yeah, and that's your true origin story. That is the true origin story.
That's where the hobby really began for me.
Mugging off 40k players, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got our 50th follower, so thank you for it's Team MMX, which I think might well be James, who I played at Hull.
No, I think that might be Matt, that one.
Okay.
Matt, I think he popped in, but he won't play in that one, but I think he has the Team MMX.
Okay.
I think James is MMX James.
Brilliant. Louis posted a link in the chat. I'm not clicking on it. Oh, it's the image in question. Apparently, it is the image in question. I'm not
one of me sat on the
throne. I will say to people if they want to check out the link, go for it. I'm not going to click on it at the minute because I don't want to break the stream.
That's my decision.
Yeah, touch wood. We've been doing quite well so far. No, it's not the fact that the image might be dodgy, Louis. It's the fact that I'm not that good with the technology that if I click on a link, I can't guarantee the stream won't go down. Let's talk about the fact that you are the number one UK player, Freddie, and you as I say, as you sort of said when we met at Justice Series and so on. So how did you go from rage quitting your first tournament to being ranked number one in the UK? How did you do it? What do you do that me and Mark don't do?
Play box is the main one, probably. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I find that I just enjoy building lists that no one else can think of, and that's generally I'm a sad little bastard that finds fucking rules and just reads about them and finds lists that make it interesting. And to be honest, it all came down to Phil, saying fucking start gearing up, and me just thinking actually I like to prove like I'm a better player in a way, and it was I didn't want to do it with a meta like army or list or I was like, I could do that. I think most people could probably go 5-0 with the Meta Army.
I didn't.
But yeah, I wanted to do my own little way, and that's how like my city's journey went. Where I started, 30 Iron Drakes, and then I developed 12 tournaments. Like, I was hitting tournaments like on a weekly basis, to the point where I got to like 5-0s and that sort of stuff. And I think it was like following like our conversations about not getting into England and that sort of stuff. It was like, right, I've got to play something else now. And I'd waited with Bok. I was like, I'm going to wait 4 months. Everyone knows the rules now. Like, I'm not going to get any gotchas and all that lot. And I was like, right, I'll play it now.
You heard it here. Hang on, that's the clickbait title of the show. You've heard it here first. Freddie says every Bok player was a gotcha player until 4 months were up.
There were some very good rules and even when I started, it was just like, fuck me, like I can't lose. And it was like it. And I mean, I won 3 tournaments in a row with it, but I wasn't enjoying like it was. When you sit at a table and you go, this guy can't beat me. Like that list was so, even though it had nice Jabbersives and Cygors and Bestigors in it, it was shit. But the general idea of that list and the allegiance abilities and everything built in, you just couldn't lose. And I mean, the amount of times I got told that your list is bullshit, which is quite funny, especially when it was Seraphon players and all that. They would give me shit.
I think there was a Warrior Lodge event where you and Toby played twice in one round, weren't they?
Yeah,
and you played a mission and it was the only one he thought he could beat you in, and I think he still lost.
Yeah, what was it? We played Battle Lines Drawn against Bok with Expert Conquerors, which you're never winning. No. And I was like, right, so we re-racked in, I think, 15, 20 minutes, and we were like, right, let's play Realmstone Cash. And then I think I just walked onto the point with my Jabbersife at the front, and then he charged into me, and I think that Jabbersife killed 3 or 4 Vanguard as it came in, just on the ones do mortals back. It's like, here's all your extra attacks. He had to kill my screen, the Cygor, so that was mortals. Then he had to go through the Cygor, and then the Jabbersife, and in the end, it was like there was that many mortals just coming at him. I think I tabled him turn 2 or 3, and that's the thing with Bok. It was like you have 2 turns to get there to the Herdstone. If you don't do it, I'm Ren 2. I'm board wide, basically 4 at rally. You can't stop me. And yeah, it wasn't. So as soon as I got the wins, I was like back to cities.
Yeah,
and where I'm happier.
So
bring random shit.
And I know I said we won't talk too much tactics and stuff, and don't worry, Mark, we're going to come on to you and how you're the self-proclaimed best death player in the world and your tournament success this weekend in a second. But Freddie, do you think you see the game differently, or do you just see the value in War Scrolls differently? Where do you think you fall down on that one?
I think it all comes down to I think identifying your play style and basically building those lists to fit that play style. So all my lists, if you've ever noticed, have a fundamental part to it, which is basically I give you a problem. So whether it be Ungors in your backfield or Paladors in your backfield, or a stupidly buffed piece, and you have however many turns to solve that problem. And if you don't solve it, I win the game. If you do solve it, we'll have a close game, and it might come down to a couple of points. And then if you really do fucking solve it, you table me. And it's one of them where a lot of people, especially when it's like cities or more skewed lists, they don't want to spend the time working out how to do it. So a lot of times they say, you explain it to me, I'll explain it. They're not listening. And then you go, you happy? And they go, yeah, I'm all good. And then you go, this is happening, and you go, right, you're done. So a lot
I'm the worst person for that. Just go, explain your army to me, and then I will just switch off.
I mean, there's only so many tokens you can show and go like, this is everything I'm going to do. But yeah, a lot of people can't solve the problem, and it's like, and the very top players, they can solve it, and then you have more of a balanced game, and it's more about the minor details. But some games, like some matchups, you just physically can't solve it. Like some of those bot commit matchups, like Black Battleline Drawn, you physically could never beat me on it because you couldn't solve that problem. Yeah, and it's and I think it's just finding your list design, your style, and developing it. A lot of people just jump on meta lists, and I'm going to name and shame Graham here from Bash because he's a prime example of this. Because when I first met Graham, he was a very good Corn player. He used to do all these smash lists. He used to like Iron Jaws. He was doing really well with them, getting like 3-2s and that sort of stuff. And then he went and got commission painted 15 bow snakes and Marathi. Right, the most like meta at the time list you could get, and he just went 1-4, 0-5, 1-4, 0-5, and it just, I mean, he used to get absolutely slapped, like, and it all came down to his play style.
Yeah,
and now he plays ogres and went 4-1 straight away.
Yeah,
and it's that sort of like you have to build your list to you, not just go on to Honest War Game. Here's a fucking list.
I feel seen.
You can do it.
I feel seen. I definitely feel seen. No. I think I'm exactly the same. I think that's something I've had a chat with myself at the weekend. Really, sort of, I'm chasing. In some of it though, is that I do want to try and play different play styles to try and understand armies and sort of try and get a feel for something different and see whether something connects. But inevitably, I go back to ogres and I start, my win rate just goes up, or destruction. In fact, I did all right with
but a lot
and stuff.
A lot of that comes into it that because you know what that does.
Yeah,
you're thinking about what they're doing, not what you're doing.
Yeah,
and like
decision
if you can
fatigue.
spend all game, if you can spend all game just thinking about what they're doing and how to beat them, then you're not worried about, oh shit, what about this buff? Oh, I forgot this, I forgot that. That's why you just got to stick on an army, get reps in, and you can't do one list and think it's done. Like those cities lists took, like I said, 10, 12 tournaments. Like it's,
Cool. Okay, well, that's really insightful, and I think I'm definitely taking some learnings away from that. I know that when we played at Warrior Lodge, you gave me a problem with your 30 Iron Drakes, and the problem was if I go first, I get shot off. And if I go second, I get shot off, and you just sort of lifted me, I think, very quickly. Which,
but it's like one of them where you go, right, the only way I can win that is with the double.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you go, right, that is my get out, and like if I don't get it, then I get tabled. If I do, then I win. It's understanding that.
Louis says we've got a high amount of Bok players in Gaff and we lost a lot.
So we did. We fucking did.
It's good though, because players like that keep the meta win rate down, which means Freddie gets to play longer with it. So So thanks for that, Freddie. Mark, how did you do this weekend as with your new Soul Blight?
3-0, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Undefeated at tournaments with new Soul Blight. Fucking best death player in the world. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
You heard that here first. So what's connected with you with this new book then that maybe didn't connect before?
So Soul Blight is just my favourite army. I own every death army now. The Ossiarch was the last one I needed. I've just picked them up. So I own everyone, but my favourite one is Soul Blight. And I think, sort of going along with what Freddie said before, because I love that army, when I got that book, all I wanted to do was read it. All I wanted to do, the weekend it came out, was just, I want to go through it and just look at it. Not even trying to find what's broken. I just want to know what's in there, what I can do, what I can play with. I've got a box full of. I literally got my box full of death right here. I always keep it close by just in case. Got my box full of death. It's like, what can I use my new toys for? What sort of rules? And the list what I went with. We were talking before we actually went live about what our play styles were. And I think I jokingly, when I started Soul Blight, was saying I want to be the most anti-Warhammer player of all time. My park the bus hammer is what I call it. I want to be sat there. I want to watch my opponent's soul die while they're trapped. And this book can play that now.
Right.
I had 2 people over the weekend just go, "That fucking tar pit is Chris." I'm like, yeah, smiling. I don't care. I'm sat here. I'll get it for 5 turns. I'll love every minute of it. But no, it's like you said, you got to find a play style that you enjoy, and once you're enjoying games, I think it's just easy to do well. There's times where I've been guilty of trying to, you go into tournaments, you're getting smashed, and you're like, I just want to do a bit better. I don't mind compromising my list to do it, and it just doesn't work.
No.
I've got my night on, and I enjoy my night on. But I think the first iteration of that list was just, I think it was 70 blade guys.
Oof.
And I was just like, it just doesn't suit the way I like to play things, and it wasn't. I didn't care how I did with it. So, if there was ever a faction that I could have gone undefeated with, it was Soul Blight, and I managed to do that at a tournament this weekend, and it was with Avangori as well, which I've posted about in the Facebook group, and most people are like, how have you managed that with Avangori? Because I like my Vengorian Lord, and I like the zombie guy, so I built them in a way that I got to use them. Yeah. And that was the main thing. Just if you go in to enjoy your games, you'll just do better because you care about how you're doing more. I think that's the most important thing to just. And as well, I used to get in a spot where I'd win a game with a list, and then change it because I'd be like, oh well, it was good, but this could be better. And I think this point I realised for this list, I was like, I'll just stick with it because every list is going to have a flaw. There's never going to be a list that is 100% unbeatable, can't be stopped, and it's not about picking every little flaw out your list. It's about doing something it does well and just sticking to it, and then letting your reps carry you through the harder moments where someone who isn't as experienced with that list, with their list, won't know how to get themselves out of that situation.
Yeah.
I think if I'd have run into one of the Night On players, I'd have been absolutely fucked, and I knew that. if I'd have drawn one of the Night On players at that tournament, I wasn't. Luckily, I didn't do that. But
do you think there's again, that's really interesting. Do you think there's an element though, sort of, that sometimes if you go into what you know is a really good list, that you almost beat yourself? So you sort of go, oh my God, that list is really amazing. I know what it does. It could easily take me off the table. And you sort of almost play yourself.
Round 2, I thought I was just going to lose because I was against a list. There is a fucking anomaly where no Lumineth players exist in Hull.
I'm moving to Hull.
I think there's one, and he doesn't really play. I've played him once. I've seen him once, and it was a completely different list. So I had no idea what the new Lumineth did because no one's even talking about him. It's not even like, oh, no one's playing him. No one wants to. no one's in Hull now. Itching for that Lumineth book. So I went into it and I went, I literally not knowing anything of what it does. Someone had to explain to me during the lunch break what I needed to look out for. So all I could do was just try and do what I think my list did well. And it went. Admittedly, it was during one of the fucking stupid missions that should never feature at a tournament. And it was the one where the objectives are active and inactive.
So you have a load.
It was 2 turns where there was no objectives on the board.
Oh, God.
So what you
basically, I just tar-pitted the objectives. And
took first turn, turn it all off, win.
He gave me the first turn, and basically I just pinned him in. He killed my Vengorian Lord turn 1 with his shit. He was running Techless, 2 blobs of fucking archers, 2 blobs of sentinels. And I was like, right. He just lifted my Vengorian Lord and we were both like, oh no. I'm fucked. And then turn 2, he lifts my Vampire Lord. And I'm like, oh no. Those 2 are what I built that list for. So I just had like dogs and skeletons left. And because that mission's really dumb, but my list has ludicrous board control.
Yeah.
I managed to just see myself through it because I knew what I practiced with my list, and I knew what it did. And I didn't know what his did, but I knew what mine did better than I think he maybe knew what his did.
Yeah. There's definitely something in it. I mean, that muscle memory, if you can lean into it when you have it, and again, decision fatigue. If your back's against the wall, you're tired, it's a tough game, and your muscle memory kicks in, and you can say, okay, I can do this, bang, that scores me the points and denies them this, and so on. I think it definitely helps. I think one of the reasons. So, you're really excited about your new book there. I mean, Freddie, you're probably sort of dying for the new Cities book to come out so you can get your hands on that at some point. But you had fun with your book. The Ogre book, when it came out in sort of November time, I got so excited. Like you, I ripped the book open. I was like, oh my god, I can build this list. I can build this list. Took a list of Carnage teams, which wasn't quite the list I wanted to run, but because we were running a team event, I couldn't take a couple of bits, and we were thinking about how it would go. Managed to do quite well at the teams event, only losing to Louis, which was because it was battle lines drawn, and he had all the dwarves and just sat them in the objectives, and he got a lovely double and sort of cleared through my stuff, and then I was on the back foot. But so I had that. Then I had Hull, which was fantastic, and got a 4-1 there, and then. Two things happened. One was the points adjustment so quickly after a book coming out, and the second was a new GHB dropping, which I just didn't have time to get any reps in. Go to Bloodshed in the Shire, took a bit of a battering, 2-3, and just sort of went, oh, the book's cooked, it's done. All the excitement I had over those lists that in my head had gone, oh, I can do this. And I'm not even talking about quadruple iron blasters or anything like that. I'm just talking about, different builds and I can get the priest in here on the Frost Lord and it can do this, but I'll have my screen and it just took the joy from that book sort of out of me because I just felt like it had been nerfed too quickly, and it doesn't happen with many other armies. I mean, they've done it with Scragrot and the Gits, but it just killed me, it just sort of took the joy away from me of my new book excitement of like, oh wow, this is great and stuff. So I'm sort of feel like I'm forcing myself to pick back up my first, one of my first big tournament loves. But I'm sure once I get those big boys on the table and start, running around, chopping things off and being -1 to win from missile attacks, which loads of fucking KO out there these days, so that'll certainly help. That I'll love it again. But that Ogres I've got that muscle memory. I've got so many reps in.
With this list, I went in with the most basic approach to list writing. I think it worked out. I think you can try and build a list that does way too much, and then if you miss a step, it completely nerfs what you were trying to do. I just went into this list and basically just went, can it hold 3 objectives at once? I built a list that could hold 3 objectives at once. And it turns out, if you can do that, you just about win any game that you play. Because the main thing you're looking for is old 1, old 2, old more.
Yeah.
And if you're holding 3, you're typically always going to get that. And so there was the mission that we played round 1 was the one where you could do 2 battle tactics.
Yeah.
If you held an objective outside of your territory with a galley champ.
Yeah.
And I think he did that 3 turns in a row and I still won.
Wow.
Just because I could hold all 4 objectives at once, or 3 objectives, and I let him have 1. And made I won by a point, admittedly. It was tight, but it shows that you don't need to write like this ludicrous list that you're going to trip over yourself trying to play correctly. And it can just be as simple as, I've got these 3 units that I know are a nightmare to shift, so I can basically make sure, or be just in the game, in the vicinity the entire game. And then it can come down to something like getting a grand strategy. In that tournament, I didn't get my grand strategy once.
Wow.
That's how board control and tar pit my list was. I failed to get my grand strategy in every single game.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how this does at some 2-day events then. So what's your next 2-day event, Mark?
My next 2-day event will be Warrior Lodge in June.
Oh, Warrior Lodge.
And I've already submitted this exact same list.
Oh, wow.
I changed the grand strategy because I didn't
bold,
achieve it a single time. But my list is already submitted. Assuming that some sort of FAQ doesn't come up solved like that. I think the only one will be like the core saggy thing that's floating about.
Yeah.
But I hadn't taken any of them anyway. So.
I think there's like what Mark was saying in terms of like, Joe, when you're more relaxed when you sort of play lists that you just know, and when you play like, I don't know, a Metal Army that is like a 5-0 list and it should go 5-0. There's a lot more pressure to try and to make that happen when instead, if you just play, I don't know, like a Soul Blight list, it's not expected to go 5-0. So you play a bit more loose, you play a bit more free. And you know what? When you're not as worried about losing. And I think a lot of mistakes happen when you're like panicking like fuck to try and find a solution. Yeah, I think like you just got to play what you enjoy, and enjoying it is I can sit and lose with cities. End of the day, I don't really care because it's not a 5-0 list. However, if I did that with, I don't know, I was going to say KO there, but yeah, that's a bit of a soft, touchy subject.
Do you know what? I'll tell you how my weekend went. I'll tell you how bad it really was for me and how stupid. So I basically I got the KO, and it sounds dumb, but
Do you want to see what your list is? Does it have 30 Thunderers in it?
It doesn't. No.
No.
So step one, I took 10 Thunderers. So that was mistake number one.
10,
that was mistake number one because 10 Thunderers doesn't do quite as well for it. So I do like the models. I genuinely do like the models. I felt
That's what they all say.
Well, I felt like they'd look great with the metallic scheme that matches my Stormcast.
Dragons look good as well back then, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. I've always liked dragons. Always been a fan of the dragons.
Sentinels, lovely, really beautiful models.
Anyway, stop picking on me. So, so my mate Matt was running KO as well, and I said, "Oh, I'll get a KO army." But the other reason was we were talking about Warhammer World Team event in June as well. And one of the guys has picked ogres already. One of the guys had sort of said they wanted Gits. Alex was taking Iron Jaws. So I was sort of like, ugh. And we needed a shooting list. And I said, well, I do like KO. The books looks pretty good at this point. I'll run KO. I'll run them at Warhammer World and stuff. So I wrote a list, which was 10 Thunderers, a unit of 6 Balloon Boys, 3 Balloon Boys, two frigates. So Admiral, Navigator, Brock and stuff. So the concept was 1 shooty boat and 1 combat boat. So sort of one each has a role anyway. So a bit of a different build. But in the couple of days beforehand, because list submission for GW events is on the day, literally as checking in and stuff. So I was like, oh, maybe I should run my ogres. I feel more comfortable with them. And I'm awful. I really suffer with bad list indecision. Anyone who knows me will know that I'll send them 4,000 lists. And in some respects, I'd rather someone just picked a list for me and said, right, this is what you're running. I'm like, cool. So team events is great. Someone goes, this is your list. And I'm like, brilliant. Off I go. So I rolled a dice 3 times. I couldn't decide between ogres and I couldn't decide between KO. And it came up 2 out of the 3 was KO. So I took the list. I'm just on the back foot straight away. In my brain, I'm trying to think about what buffs I need. So I played game 1 and that was into... Oh, yeah. So what's the one army I don't want to play with KO as I'm settling in? Ideneth, obviously. So my list is 1,940 points. His is 1,910. I'm like, for fuck's sake. I'm like, how? And it turns out he was a nice guy. He's a French player trying to sort of push for the French team, but he's running a teams list, which is basically anti-shooting. So it's a load of Reavers, it's a load of Thralls, it's bringing stuff back and that. I misplay a little bit with the boats. He sort of gets in. I need to win the double 2 into 3 or the turn order. I don't get it. I needed that turn 3. If I'd have got it, I could have shot him off, not been in combat and put pressure on him and stuff. He wins the priority. He lifts my boats. It's basically game over. He manages to surround one of my boats, so everyone dies. Right. Everyone dies within a boat, so that's like 900 points of my bloody army gone. It's like, fuck me. So I lose that game. I go into the second game and it was against a guy called Toby who's running. So over lunch, I'd seen the draw come up and I just sort of skimmed it. I was like, oh, it's Gits with spiders. This will be all right. I should walk this. Get to the table and he pulls Kragnos out. So that just threw me because I hadn't mentally prepared for Kragnos. So I was like, oh, fuck, Kragnos. Okay, right. All right. So he talks through his list. I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. I've got an artifact or an article that allows me to do +1 to wound against a unit. So of course I forget to deploy that at all. I don't use it. So my +1 to wound against Kragnos, which would have been great. No. So he goes, right, I'll go finest hour with Kragnos. You can go first. And so my brain just goes, I'm going to try and lift Kragnos instead of shoot everything else off the table so he's got nothing left. I go, I'll try Kragnos. So I do like fucking 3 wounds or whatever because he's on like a 0 up after, finest hour all out defense and stuff. And I'm like, what a muppet. He had Tusk Helm on a little 65-point web spinner shaman. He gets a 17-inch charge off on it, so he's rolling 17 dice on 4 ups to do mortals.
Oh,
with a 65-point. People were talking about Arcane Tome and stuff. Like, fuck that. A 17-inch charge on a 65. So he's mortals everywhere. So yeah, so all wasted shots in my turn 1 going into Kragnos. I should have just killed everything else. I fail at battle tactics. I'm getting, throwing bad decision after bad decision. So I play that game. Game 3 was then against a guy who he was new to the tournament scene. I think it was his first tournament. His army wasn't fully painted. Really nice guy. I sort of put a picture up without thinking on Twitter.
Pete smashed him.
Yeah, I think I put like Pete bullied a noob off the table, and I had to say like I didn't actually bully him. But at this point, I'm shooting stuff off. He released and he didn't quite know the game. So he's got his unit of stabbers come up to one of the boats, which is my shooty boat. And then he goes, oh, maybe I'll release that unit of fanatics that's definitely not in that. And I'm like, that's cool, because the minute he releases them, he's like, he can't get round his own screen of fanatics here. So he's going to have to put the fanatics in for the Unleash Hell. So he goes, so I'll fanatics out. I was like, okay, cool. He goes, so I'll try my charge here with my stabbers. And I'm like, cool. He rolls like a 6 and he goes, I think that'll do it. I was like, mate, it won't. You've got to go all the way around here. I said, I don't even think you can do it with 12 inches. And he's like, I've made a mistake there, haven't I? I was like, yeah. He goes, I might command point re-roll it. I was like, don't. I said, because I don't. I said, we can measure it, but it's up to you. He was like, oh, no, you're right. It's outside of 12. I was like, okay, fine. So he goes, right, fanatics, they're in. I said, do you want me to roll everything or do you want to just lift them off? He was like, what do you mean? I said, what, 6 up ward, two saves, 2 wounds? He was like, yeah. I went, I've got all this, He was like, oh, yeah. He goes, oh, that's stupid. Goes over to the other side of the table and he goes, right, I'll charge my stabbers over here in. I'm like, yep, cool, no worries. A couple of boat boys, in you go. Then he goes, I'll charge my loon boss. I was like, cool. He goes, 3 inches. Yeah, that's fine because he's got a 2-inch reach. And he'd put him, and I went, no, you need to finish within half an inch of a base. It's not how far the reach of the weapon is. He goes, I've played that wrong all weekend. And I'm going, I really am kicking a puppy here. Got to turn 3. I said, look, I think I've won this now. And he goes, I said, but I don't want to talk you out of playing. If you don't think I have. He goes, maybe I could do this. I was like, yeah, but if you bring something back, I'm on this objective. It's my 10 Thunderers. The minute you come over here, I win the turn, or my turn, I shoot you off. He's like, okay. So we talked about it for 5 minutes. He goes, maybe I could get this with some hoppers. I said, all right, we'll try and see if it works. He did it. I said, you still only score 1 point. Yeah, I haven't got a battle tactic and stuff. He's like, okay. So that was that. I play against Pete Kukowski with his Daughters of Cain the following day. I'm like, how are you down here type thing. Yeah. Put my screens there, decide to tag both my boats together. So Marathi goes in and ties it all up. I'm like, fuck it. Literally the minute the game starts, I was like, fuck my screens up there. Because I was thinking of one thing. I've got a battle tactic where I can do it, where if I hold less objectives than him at the start and hold more, then I can get it. So I just deployed too far back. Yeah. Because stupidly, I'm playing for one thing, not the game, because I don't know the fucking army.
Yeah, that sounds very much like when I played Louis first time, and he was like all bitty big bollocks, with his, and he put all his magma drops together, and I just put an incarnate like that. Literally, I think it was all 4 of them or 3 of them were just tagged. I was like, well, that's game.
It was I love little stuff like that. There was someone at our club who plays Night Orn. And because they were looking at like meta lists, I think I might get an incarnate. And I went, what? Based on the entire premise that your army falls back and charges back in? You want an incarnate in that? You want to bring an incarnate to those games? And he went, yeah, no, don't do it.
So yeah.
To your point though, playing that new guy, there was a guy in my round one, a guy who I beat by a point. He was playing Beast of Chaos and he had 9 Bulgor in one unit. That was basically his entire, essentially. Yeah. That's a hefty unit. And he'd put them in reserve, and obviously they've got to come in turn 2 now.
Oh no!
And because my fucking list, I've got loads of direwolves. I basically just screened him out and put in quarters, screened him out, and there was a little pocket that he'd made. I still don't know if all 9 would have fit in there, but he was pretty confident they were. And my wolves were in combat with something partway down the board, and he starts. I don't think he didn't want them in combat with him. I can't remember why. I think it's because I kept casting Spirit Gale, so I think all of his characters had like 1 wound left. So he started retreating him out, and then he retreated the last one out, and I went, yeah, those wolves are going to redeploy. And he went, oh. And I just moved him back into that pocket where he'd created. And he's like, oh, that's so... And I was like, I didn't want to tell you. That's exactly... Like, I felt weird not pointing it out, but I was like, I can't tell him that I'm literally about to stop his Bulgor. Yeah. Pretty much interacted the entire game.
Well, I didn't learn my lesson over the weekend because I played game 6 because it was like the whole 8 games thing. I played game 6 into Archeon on a Mystic Shield and an all-out defense, and thought I'd try and shoot him off as well. So didn't learn at all. So Grant in the chat is saying, agree with the pressure. If you pick a meta list, definitely makes me feel much worse when I take a meta list and do badly and see others doing well with it. I think, you put the pressure on yourself. It's Grant. Grant is grudged against me at Carnage, so we can have a great game, and I hope his dice are as bad as they always are. I mean, I've seen people roll some horrific dice. I think Grant literally. It's the first time I've said I'll buy an opponent new dice before a tournament.
Yeah, some people though, it is. Like, I mean, I played Pete's goalie at Sheffield, and it was just like, I just felt bad for him. It was head in hands at that point. It was just like, sometimes dice are an excuse. Like most of the time, they're not. But
my practice game before this tournament was against Beast of Chaos. It was against Lyndon, who was in the chat, and I've never rolled more foul than that. I think my Vampire Lord was consistently killing 2 best to go. My Vampire Lord and Zombie Dragon, he was like, Mark, what are you doing? I was like, I can't kill anything right now.
And then when you don't want it, you'll just roll 6s. It's just like the most pointless roll.
So we're coming to sort of towards the last sort of 14-15 minutes of the show, and I hope everyone's really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. What I will say is, so people in the chat, are there any questions you'd like to ask my lovely guests this evening? Try and keep it slightly clean. So if there's any questions you'd like to ask the guys, type them in the chat now. What I will say is, while I've still got an audience, that next week I will be joined by Jody from the Essex Moor Tribes and Grant Farmhammer, and we're going to be having a chat about sort of tournaments. Basically, we've got Jody setting up his first tournament and doing his first ever tournament, and we've got Grant, who's sort of a more established TO, so going to have a chat with them about their Warhammer journey and sort of tournaments themselves and stuff, which I think will be a really interesting one. The week after that is probably the big one. It will be the Carnage review show. And on this one, I think we'll be taking bets out of how sober myself and Alex will be by the end of the session, because I think that will be lists and wine evening.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
So that's the Carnage show. And then the week after that will obviously then be a Carnage retrospective. So I'm going to hopefully get Nick from the Essex Moor Tribes on the show, and a couple of the guys from my new gaming group, Mad, on the show. Maybe there'll be a little fight over who doesn't get to keep me or who has to keep me after the weekend. We'll see. But
your current partner sat having dinner with your ex.
yeah, basically. So I think that'll be really interesting. So sort of 3 weeks of really good shows coming up, and basically, I just want to get people on the show, like yourselves, to just talk Warhammer and just sort of get some different voices and different opinions on it. So if anyone has listened and thinks, oh, I'd love to come on the show, just drop me a message on Twitter. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. God, I sound so professional.
I think your issue is, Pete, you probably peaked too early. I think the only possible way you can go is down from here.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, that is very true. I have picked two fabulous people to join me on this, and it will be difficult, but we'll try. So, some questions in the chat. First person said is, when's the podcast up, Grant? And Grant's answered that. Podcast's been a nightmare with lambing. Probably going to be a couple of weeks away till we get back into the swing of things, sadly. So, for those that don't know, I'm not going to talk more about it because I've got Grant on the show next week. He can tell everybody about his podcast and so on himself. So, Louis says, Mark, out of 100 games, how many would Freddie beat you?
0.
Zero,
Freddie. I think I'm confident.
All twists and turns, yeah?
You play me whatever mission you want. Whatever mission you want, I'll put more L's next to your name than Cool J.
Oh, a little bit. Freddie, maybe we'll bring you in as a merc to Team Lancashire when we do War of the Roses, and you can go.
Look, we're already outsourcing. Why don't you bring some Americans in as well?
No. I mean, you've got to have a Lancashire postcode to play in. And before anyone says, "Oh, I've only been living here 18 months," I spent many years living in Clitheroe and Blackburn in Lancashire, so I've got my dues in.
We'll be definitely looking at photo ID from your team, Pete, after that.
Fair enough. Okay, so the question from Sam, and hello Sam, thanks for joining, mate. Top bloke yourself. Question for you guys: what armies do you guys dislike playing against the most, and why?
It's currently probably KO.
Silver Death is mine.
It used to be Seraphon though. Some of that bullshit was like it just happened. Everything was just happening, and it was like I can't stop it. Like when it was just like Oak just doing his bullshit, then some terrain piece is just mortal wounding you off. Yeah, like what the fuck is going on? I can't do any spells. Yeah, the original Seraphon was. I fucking hated it. It wasn't
mine was absolutely that fucking stupid bug list that would fly in.
The nine.
Hit you, fly off, and then when you did it, it would also like fly off, but then heal all the way back to full again. And then it's just bouncing around the board as well. So I remember I played it at a tournament on the 8 objective mission. I was like, why are we even bothering? Why are we playing this game? I'm never going to hold more than you.
Yeah, but choice. That's what like the new player spam is like effect. Where if you ain't got a double, you ain't ever killing that bloody block, and it's just going from like 1 to 9 bloody flares over and over and over again.
I think it's mainly just any list that takes the interactivity out of the game.
Yeah.
If you are no longer also playing that game, then it's just a terrible experience.
Yeah, I think I enjoy playing when there is a way to win. So if it is a double turn, it's a double turn or whatever it is. But some armies you play and you go, I physically cannot do anything here. And it's them ones. I wouldn't say there's any right now that are shockingly bad.
Have you played against the new Slanesh yet?
I have. I played James's Bliss Barb. That was one of the games I lost with my new Soul Blight, and that was another one where it's just all you're doing is shooting me from behind the screen. Like nothing.
But there is a way to beat it. Like where I don't know. It's not like 3 Fox Sentinels, which is just when that was a thing, and it was like you'd play people and there'd be handshakes on deployment.
Yeah, there was genuinely at a tournament, wasn't there? They rolled for, I think it was Matt Gouldsborough and someone. They basically just sort of rolled for priority and then said, "Cool, handshake," and game was done.
Yeah, I can't get out.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So there we go. So next question is to all three: what's the best event you've attended and why? Go, Freddie first.
Do like the War in the Heartlands.
War in the Heartlands.
I think that's I think just generally, I think big tournament. Everyone's on their best, but everyone's enjoying themselves. Leicester's pretty handy for me.
Yeah,
everyone for me.
War in the Heartlands. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mark,
I've got one joke answer and I've got one proper answer. So anyone who attended Birmingham GT with me will know why that one's my favourite, and that's my joke answer. That's because I met the fittest bird I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've not forgotten her since that day. It's been nearly a year. I think about her daily. The actual one, I think, is probably Carnage Teams. And Carnage Teams, our team was thrown together last minute because I think 3 people out of it dropped.
Yeah.
So it ended up being this fucking ragtag band. And we actually did alright. I think we all surprised. I went 4-1. I only lost my last game. I almost did the 5-0 with Night on that week. There's something different about a teams event.
Not to burst Mark's bubble, didn't you have a walkover in one of your rounds?
Right, see. Listen here. So we got to the bye round 1, and then I think we still won round 2 with max score.
Yeah, I'm not
we
saying
got
that.
max score for round 1, so we went straight to... But the way I'm counting it is, me and Mikey had a practice game, and I won that.
So there you go. That's how you've achieved...
If I have not won that practice game during that round, I'd have said I'd have gone 3-2.
Okay.
I would have admitted that it would have been 3-2.
No, that's fine.
I played a game.
The number of games you played that weekend. Yeah,
yes.
No, that's absolutely fine.
I played a game and I won.
My team beat you, but I was the only one that managed to lose to Louis. So
look, when I say we did all right, I mean that every one of our players didn't lose every single game.
Hey,
yeah,
that's all good.
That is doing all right for a gaff team.
Yeah, no, I'm sort of winding you up because I know all the answers and stuff. So, Carnage Teams and War in the Heartlands, both great events. I think for me, funnily enough, the one that the most I've enjoyed this side of Christmas is actually the one held in Hull. That was the one I've enjoyed.
Oh, thank you very much.
The most with a tie next to Shropshire Slaughter. And I'll tell you,
I've not been to that one with all the cakes.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Again, I'll probably do a show on this and get some people in from to chat about it. But I think my new favourite thing is small events. I think I'm sort of 30, 40 players going with a group that you know quite well, and sort of just 30, 40 players as opposed to the large scale events. Apart from Carnage, but I've always said Carnage feels like a big event as small scale, or a small event that's a big event, or whatever. However you want to say it, it feels more cozy.
Keeping that personal touch with everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. You're is it what 32 is like the perfect number, isn't it? Like you got your pyramid. Like when you start playing 4-1s and like when it's too small and you just start yo-yoing, then it's not. Yeah, I think if you get 30-40, that's like perfect.
Yeah, so that's my new, and so Shropshire Slaughter and just edged by Hull there, just because I went 4-1 there, and
it's because I give you a copy of Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, you did, for my shit talking with you. So quick fire question round, because we are coming towards the end of the time, and I have monopolised your evenings, gents, and I really do appreciate it. So 2 questions from Phil, quick fire round. So what is the one army you don't play that you would like to play, Freddie?
Is maybe quickfire.
Yeah.
Probably a death, like a death, maybe like a soul blight or something like that. Yeah.
Soul blight.
I can't be asked to paint bloody 200 zombies.
Yeah, fair. Mark, army you don't play that you would like to.
Despite all the shit talking I do to destruction players, I think it's ogres.
Yes, yeah, we'll get you out. We'll get you onto our side.
I would never be a destruction player, but I think I used to have in fantasy. I used to have an ogre army, so I think it's a bit of that.
Okay, brilliant. I think I've played every army, so I can't really comment. I've chased that meta far too often. So, okay, quick fire again. Is there a play style you hate playing against? Mark?
Slow. That's my only
Slow.
answer. No, if people play how they want, that's absolutely fine by me. But slow play needs to completely fuck off.
Oh, yeah. When it's slow playing, I can't play slow. I think even when I tried, I can't do it.
My play style that I hate playing against is unengaged. So if someone just doesn't want to be there, just can't be asked, doesn't really respond, I like to offer my opponent a drink. I like to have a chat. I like to, engage. That's why I'm there to socialize. So if someone's not wanting that engagement by choice, I'm not saying, if someone is, a bit socially awkward or, a bit shy or nervous or whatever, that's absolutely fine. But if someone just can't be bothered to engage, then that's the fucking worst for me, to be honest. But Louis says that you would, talking of the lady at the Birmingham GT, he says you admired her from a distance. I'm guessing that was due to the restraining order? Or
no, we spoke because Logan was terrified I was actually going to ask her out. Logan, I went, lads, watch this. And Logan was like, no, please, Mark, please don't say anything. I think I just said bye to her. And she came back over.
Was she playing in the tournament?
No, she worked at the Premier Inn.
Oh, she went to the Premier Inn. Okay, she might watch this show, and then we've connected two people across.
Now that she's said I'm going 3-0, I think
exactly.
It's only a matter of time. I think it's only a matter of time.
You need a business card or some sort of T-shirt that says 3-0.
I've still got.
Ask me my name.
I found the key card to the Premier Inn room I stayed in the boot of my car, so I'm waiting at some point to go take that back in person. It's a 3-hour drive, but I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you everybody for those questions. Sam says finally get yourself Craggy and the Tyrants, Mark, and just sort of charge things across. So that is 10 o'clock, so I'm going to call it there. I want to thank my guests, Freddie and Mark. They've been absolutely fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed just us shit talking about Warhammer, really. If you learn any lessons from them, it's entirely accidental and was unplanned. I'm sure at some point in the future we'll get them back on. I think I'll book Freddie in for post Worlds to get a review in if he's up for that. I'd love to hear that.
Of course.
And Mark, we'll get you in at some point.
I'm always relevant.
Exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah. I tell you what, Mark, if you get the 5-0, we'll just do a one-on-one interview, and you can just spend the entire show talking about it. At some point, I'm going to get Phil and his brother on to talk about the Brothers War, which is a new tournament coming to Element next year, which is already sold out. It's already sold out, and absolutely. One of my teammates is on this chat show. Me and you, Freddie, we're doing it, mate. We're doing it. Louis says, can we have Mark on every week and rotate you off, Pete? Louis tried to poach me for his own show when I announced I was doing my show. That's, so Louis can jog on. So, yeah. But no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Before we go, Pete, as well, because I know Lyndon would kill me if I didn't shout out the Gaff Jamboree that we're doing in October.
Didn't we already? I said I've got my ticket already.
Yeah, you said you got your ticket, but I don't think I ever said when it actually was. He will kill me.
Go for it. Yes.
So please, you said
sorry. Yeah. As we finish, is there anyone you'd like to shout out, or any events or anything you'd like to talk about quickly?
It's funny you should ask that, Pete, because I've actually got a tournament to shout out. So I'm running another 2-dayer in Hull in July. That one. Tickets are available. I believe they're £35, which is one of the cheapest events going.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, please find me on Twitter, and I'll get you in touch with how you can purchase tickets.
Your Twitter username
is Gaff_Mark or something like that. Gaff Mark. If you type in Gaff Mark, I'm the biggest. I'm the biggest deal on Twitter, I think, at the minute. So you just search Mark, you'll find.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And then in October we have the second annual Gaff Jamboree, which is another fantastic event with lots of daft spot prizes, a lot of mini games between rounds. It's just it is the daftest tournament to suit our team, I think, that's ever been made.
Well,
tickets are available for that one as well.
maybe in advance of that one, we'll maybe get you and a couple of the guys to join me on the stream. We'll do a list review for that show. Just have a bit of fun. A gaff takeover. A gaff takeover. Brilliant. Freddie, anyone you want to shout out?
Just the whole community. They're all fucking gems, aren't they? So
it's the nicest guy, Freddie, isn't he?
Oh, it makes me sick.
Trying to get my sports votes. That's what it is. I got done to the Sheffield. I felt like an arsehole.
Right. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank everyone for joining us on the stream. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you again next week.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, gang.